Fall at Equestria, the crystals howling dance. By Megaskullmon. Read by Forrest M. Chapter 11. The Gathering.
A gathering for our time is but a journey for the time to see.
Day 32. The desert in front of the lab. I had left the lab and looked to Crow.
Crow, do me this favor. It will take a few days to get back to where I need to go. Go to the Buffalo, then go to Misty Apartments and gather those you can and bring them to the Reaper Fields. I need an army. The Enclave force might have some of their troops leave to deal with the rest of Equestria. But what they did to me, my friends, I want them to feel pain.
The changeling nodded and looked towards the way.
I shall do this for you, my friend. A battle to save your friends.
I nodded as I watched him transform into a raven and then flew off towards the buffalo. I looked back to the door of the lab and took my claws writing deep into the door. The sins of the past ended with death. Then I wandered off towards the Reaper Fields out of the desert. I looked at my pitbuck, remembering where I went and how I got there. Walking through the desert was an interesting matter, but I wished I had someone to talk to. It was getting dull always being on my own, but of course, I sent Crow to find folks to join me. Then, after the battle, I'm gonna pass out for a day. I feel like I could just get some much-needed sleep. I refuse to allow sleep to get to me, so I can get to where I need to go. I looked around, seeing how calm everything is, because I figured there would be Enclave flying everywhere. I noticed smoking armor and rushed to it. It was Enclave, and I looked around, seeing many. Then I saw a tent and rushed to it and went in, seeing Sand. Sand looked up from a Pegasus leg he was eating. Ah, the Taria found me again. I see you came from the way of the lab. I blinked, looking to him.
You knew?
He shrugged. Easy to tell. He chuckled softly, and I sighed.
Anyway, did you do this?
He shook his head. No. I came up in a battle, and basically they left their dead behind. I just got to say, they taste good. Sand smirks. I felt a strange throbbing in my heart. Was I falling in love with this guy? Or was I just angry at the fact I saw him again?
I need to get going. I could use some meat instead of what the buffalo gave me.
Sand laughs and smiles. Well then, find a body, rip a limb off, and eat. Their legs are amazing. I sighed again, and I went to one of the dead and ripped off a limb and went to the fire and put the leg on it to cook. I will come with you, Taria, to help save your friends. But I do warn you, there is no way they're still alive. If they are, then you're very lucky. I stayed silent and took a bite out of the leg and looked up to him.
Sand, I will do anything to get to them, even if I have to fight alone.
I keep eating the meat, and I sighed.
I need to get to Reaper Fields and blow a horn that was created to start a meeting.
Sand looks to me and cocks his sniper rifle. Let's do it then. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of the Enclave taking out the ones that should be paying me caps. I nodded and finished my leg, but my exhaustion and pain stopped me a bit. But I needed to move. Sand stood up, not worrying about the camp. He used the fire to burn it all down. Let's go, before the Enclave sends more to find who killed their friends. I nodded and walked along. It started to rain as it grew darker from the rain clouds. I looked to Sand.
What is going on that caused the Enclave to come?
Sand looked at me and chuckled. They wish to help the world now, by killing those they foresee as threats. I nod, and the two of us walked through the desert. As we did, I kept to myself, closing my eyes, remembering Kip. If those fools hurt her, I would be very angry. I looked around, hearing nothing as it rained. It was starting to get to me. Relax. I've been out of the pack for years. I gave Sand a look and smiled.
Why did you leave then?
Sand looked at me and smirked. I got tired of being told that being a hunter, I'm just worthless trash and not worth to breed with a female. Also, got tired of the fact the elders used to fear to control us, saying all ponies are evil outside of our cave. So, I went hunting and never returned. I sighed.
I was sent out to find the Howling dance. I had it in my hands, then I left it back there. I was told to get it and take it back home. Then, if I left and took it home with me, the Enclave would have found us sooner or later. No one is going to be hiding. I'm amazed they haven't found us yet.
Sand nodded to me, and the rain started coming down harder, and we both got very wet. Looking around calmly, I just stared at the vast, empty desert and sighed softly. This walk was going to be a long one. 2 more days. I need to get to them. I closed my eyes tightly, and I fell to my knees. Sand looked at me and chuckled. You're pushing yourself too much. So... He lifts me over his back and starts to carry me. He found a strange set of rocks that seemed to be a way to block the rain and set me down. Listen, rest. You need to rest before we get there. I looked down to my legs and growled. I sighed and then laid back, closing my eyes a bit.
Do you think I'm worrying about ponies too much?
Sand looked to me and kept silent for a moment, and then spoke with a soft growl. No. Our kind are too xenophobic as well. It's time to break the past and save those that need us. Even if us being guardians was a lie, it's time to help other heroes in this land. I sat up for a time, but I started to feel how tired I was.
I'm sorry for asking you to help me.
Sand blinked, looking towards me, and gave me a shrug. It's fine. Come rest and sleep. I know it's not something you want to do, really, but do you really want to get there and fall asleep during the fight? I gave a nod, and I closed my eyes and breathed softly, thinking of my friends. I thought of my friends, worried so much about them. It's almost being close to 2 weeks. I need to get to them, but my body needs to rest. Slowly, I fell asleep while Sand watched for anyone to come to harm us both. Day 33, the long trek. I was wide awake after that sleep. The 2 of us walked in the wet sand and dust. We walked towards the Reaper fields. It felt like it was going to take forever, but we had to do this, even if most of the creatures would try to stop us. But I wasn't going to allow it to happen. Nothing was going to stop me to getting to my friends. I still had some pain in my body. My body never fully healed from that gas that went through my system back at the camp, so I had a nasty cough now and then. I still had some of that venom coursing through my veins, but I needed to get to them before it was too late. You do know you need to rest, Taria. You can't keep forcing yourself to go on like this. It's not healthy. I know what you learned, but you need to stop yourself before you kill yourself, Sand said, growling softly and sounding worried. As worried as one of our species could be, of course. Our kind rarely worried about each other. Normally, it was just stepping on the other to get fame or the right mate to breed with. Being wolf-like beings wasn't always the best thing. I am considered fodder to my species. I'm not sure what Sand was. I'm sure he'll tell me sometime. I turned on my pitbuck, and what came out of it was just the Enclave, so I turned it back off and sighed. I looked towards Sand. I needed to get back to them. My heart was in pain, because I know Softpaw was dead. What about Silvergunner? What about Kip? What about Shadow and Little Hoof? Was I about to fight to try to save them and not move on from them and just let them pass away? Then I thought to myself, no, they risked everything for me.
Sand, look, you don't need to keep following me. If you have something better to do, then you can go.
Sand blinked and looked at me with his yellow eyes, his brown fur blending in with the sand and dirt. Yeah, no, Taria. We need to prove that our species can be more than just xenophobic assholes. He gave me a soft smile and a kind growl. It had been a few hours' walk. We stopped once to eat some food that we hunted down, but we haven't seen any ponies or other creatures at all lately. I haven't even heard or seen of Watcher. It was starting to worry me. I looked at my weapons. I left many of them behind. I lost my zebra pistol, my old sword. I even left the flame sword behind. I will find them again, hopefully. My thoughts focused more on my failures and not my friends. I looked to Sand, who seemed to just walk alongside me, like nothing was wrong at all.
How do you do it, Sand?
Sand looked at me and blinked. How do I do what? He asked, looking at me with a weird look.
How do you just ignore the fact that we're in hell and that hell wants to kill us? Well, really, I mean, how do you handle being away from our kind?
Sand chuckles and shook his head. I just forget it. The ponies of this land are very friendly folks if you meet the right ones. Our species could learn a lot from them. But the issue is, most of our species don't want to help non-creatures like us. They don't even want to help each other. The Lightbringer, security, and so forth are helping, even if they didn't want to at the start. It's best to help this world. This world needs it, more than feeling sorry for yourself in a basement somewhere. He said with a chuckle. I gave him a weak smile, sighing, then looking back to the path we walked. I looked at my pitbuck, seeing that we're another day away from the Reaper fields. It was becoming bothersome that I may never see my friends again. I was hoping I would, but I'm not too sure. I was going to ask many to risk their lives for something that may not be wise. Then I heard many gunshots ahead of us, and we both dropped down, going up a hill to see a caravan under attack by raiders. It seems they had their wagons down, and it was a pretty big standoff. I looked to Sand and gave him a nod. As he grabbed his sniper rifle, I snuck over through the area to try to get behind the raiders, and I could hear them yelling and screaming what they will do to the mares and children. Then a shot rang out, and one of the heads of the raiders blasted into bits. And then I finally got to them, since they had no idea what was going on. Raider ponies seemed very stupid. I came up behind one of them and pulled him away from his friends. I covered his mouth and snapped his neck. Then they found me, aiming their guns at me. I smiled, putting my hands over my head. The raiders that didn't seem to care about me kept firing at the caravan, their guns cocked as they aimed at me, getting ready to fire. Then about 3 shots rang out, and they dropped the other raiders looking towards me, and I looked down at the dead bodies. I shrugged, grabbing my machine gun. I fired at what I could, but I only got one and ran behind some cover. I looked who shot the 3 bullets, and it was 3 Steel Rangers, but they seemed different. I tried to change my ammo, but more shots rang out and the raiders dropped, as the 3 aimed at me.
You again?
I looked up, seeing the 3 speak to me. One of them took their helmet off. It was that red mare, along with her friend that wanted to help them get the Applejack Ranger. I stood fully up and blinked, looking to them.
What about the ponies that you were protecting?
The other took off her helm and smiled. They're fine. We're now going together to defend this land. I sighed softly and stood up, looking at the 3 mares.
Well, I need to get going.
I lifted up my hand, and Sand came down to me.
Come, Sand, let's get going.
As I was starting to leave, a young filly came up to me and Sand, and we looked down to them.
Miss, you saved us.
I looked at the filly, and then to the 3 mares, and then to Sand. Sand spoke with a smirk. Oh, yes, the wolf saved you, with the help from those 3 mares. I looked up, my ears perking up. I gave Sand a nasty look, and he gave me a snicker. Oh, I am sorry, Miss Wolf. He winks. I growled, sighing, turning to the filly.
I was happy to help, little one.
I gave her a pat on the head.
Stay, Mommy!
She ran off to her family. I looked to the 3 mares.
What now?
The three mares looked at each other. The red-furred mare smiled.
We wish to go with you, till we get new orders.
Blinking, I looked to them.
Why? I'm headed to pretty much my death along with Sand. I'm trying to rescue friends of mine.
I smiled at the three mares. They looked at each other and moved back, whispering to each other. I would give them time as the mother of the filly came up to me and Sand, and I smiled.
I'm happy to help.
Sand nods. I looked towards the way to our destination. It was a day away. The mare spoke up with a smile.
Hello, I am River. I'm the leader of this caravan. Will you please stay with us and enjoy a meal? And then you can be on your way. But it's if you wish. My daughter would love it if you stayed with us.
I looked to Sand, and he gave me a smirk and winked. If I didn't have fur, they would have seen my blush, and then I just sighed, growling gently.
I will stay.
The three mares came back.
We will be going with her, so yes, we shall stay as well.
I looked towards the mares and smiled. A meal was laid out for us. The caravan ponies did so much for us. They had gave us so much food that they had gathered, and they chuckled, as the three mares seemed to be talking to each other as they ate what they were given. They were still in their armor, without the helms. They seemed to have become good friends after all that. It wasn't that long, really, but it felt like months for me. I had others willing to follow me. I held the food I was eating and went out of the small party they were having. I stood by myself as I heard the cheers and happiness. I looked towards the way to my friends. Sand, standing beside me, and softly spoke. A path that you fully seek, Taria. You need to relax. You will get yourself worked up trying to save your friends. I looked towards Sand, eating my food. I gagged a bit. It was not meat, but I had to eat it.
I need to get to them. I need to get to Reaper Fields.
River trotted up to the two of us and softly spoke.
We can drop you off there. We were heading to Manhattan after that, but we can bypass our travel to help you, since you helped us.
Blinking, I looked down to the unicorn mare who was painted with white on her mouth and hooves, and a bit of blue.
I thank you for that.
I smiled and felt my heart sink. Why were so many helping me in this world of death? I watched her as she walked off, and I sighed, looking to Sand.
I feel if they went with us, they will die.
Sand looked towards me and patted my back. Rest in the caravan. We will be there in the morning, I think. I looked at the three mares in the armor eat, and they nodded to me. As I laid in one of the caravans, I fell right to sleep. Dreams. I opened up my eyes, blinking and looking around. Was I dreaming? I looked around Equestria. It was green and full of life. I was in a town full of ponies? I looked down, blinking, seeing I had hooves. I was walking near a mare. She had a misty moon cutie mark. Suddenly, as if fate, the dream paused a moment. The ghoul spoke calmly. I felt that you had too much pain in your life. I wish to show you what the world was like before the entire war happened. You deserve to see what many are trying to bring back. I looked towards him like I was removed from the body, and I looked towards him and sighed.
Is this before everything got extremely out of control?
The ghoul nodded and sighed, looking towards the old world that he remembers. You may have killed me, but it seems fate is making me stay in your mind. I think it's till you die and join me in the great beyond. I blinked, looking towards the ghoul, and gave a gentle smile.
I guess I will allow this. I need to rest anyway, before I destroy myself.
The ghoul nodded, and he vanished as the dream started again. Like it was me there. This must have been a memory of his. I looked around at the bright, lovely town, seeing all the ponies. When was this? How long ago was this? I saw an orange mare with apples on her rump and her sister. She seemed to be almost close to an adult. I looked towards the other ponies, seeing the ones known as Twilight and Fluttershy. It seems they were very, very young still. The ghoul spoke calmly.
This is many years before that war, when our world was full of peace. I'm sorry to show you this, but I'm trying to prove to you that ponies aren't evil, but they do make mistakes, and greed will always get in the way. But please, Taria, don't hate the ponies of the past for what they did, for what we all did.
He looked at me with very sad eyes.
None of us knew how bad the war would get. None of us knew.
I looked towards the ghoul, and I sighed calmly, nodding, and then I looked back to the ponies whose body I was in, like I was stuck in it. The dream started up again, and I followed the memory itself. The stallion I was in was walking beside his wife. They seemed to just be a normal, everyday group that lived in this town of ponies. I saw so many ponies, and such happiness. I wish I could have seen this. I wish I could have. I looked up, seeing Rainbow Dash and many other ponies in the sky, working on the weather. I'm guessing this is the past. The future needs to be of peace. A hope of the dream fills my heart. But seeing this, I know it's too far away to even happen. My host, I could say, jumped out of the way of a little dragon that was rushing to Twilight with a letter. But the vision started to vanish. Everything was going black. I had no idea why.
What's happening?
I looked around in the darkness, but then I had a normal everyday dream. I no longer had the cognitive thoughts. Day 33, Reaper Fields. Looking around, I saw that everything seemed alright here. Like the Enclave just ignored the area because of how it looked. Looking towards the caravan, I looked up to the 3 Applejack Rangers.
Thank you for bringing us here.
River nodded with a smile. The caravan headed towards the way to Manhattan. I looked to Sand and then to the 3 mares. We walked into the Reaper Fields and went to the table. It seems a lot was very silent. I grabbed the horn that was made to call every pony.
Okay, stay on guard. This may call ghouls too.
I put my mouth to the horn and blew. It made a loud sound, calling them all to the table. Then we settled down, and I looked to the 3 mares.
Stand guard. They will be here, maybe in an hour or so. So, Sand, please wait with me.
I sat in the chair and waited. The 3 mares stood guard while Sand sat in the other chair. All I could think of was my friends. I swear I could hear Kip crying and sobbing. I needed to get to them. I felt it was breaking my heart. I closed my eyes to rest a moment, and I heard the mare's weapons arm. I looked up, seeing the rat creepers.
Whoa, lower your weapons.
I stood up and gave Cannonball a hug. The king chuckles.
I see you have returned. What happened? We all saw these flying ponies going to attack the camp.
I sighed, looking towards the way there, and looked down. Not sure what to say, and pointed to the chair.
Sit, Cannonball. I will explain when the rest get here.
He nodded, and gave a nod to his guards, who stood by him. I looked over to see Dumbbell and 2 of his guards. Then, seeing the Junk Reapers without their leader. They seemed to have someone representing them, and they nodded.
All right, I need to tell you something before they try to destroy all of you.
I sat in the chair and sighed, looking to the 3 mares, and gave them a nod as they went to patrol. I looked to Sand, and he nodded. Cannonball looked to me and blinked.
What do you mean? You left 2 weeks ago, and then...
I cut him off.
Softpaw is dead.
The guards dropped their weapons, as Dumbbell's guards even gave a gasp.
The Enclave came in and killed who they could. My friends are still trapped there. I need to get to them. I need to save them. Look, I don't know if you will agree to help me. I am begging you 3. I need your hooves, your claws. I need you to help save them. Don't allow them to come for you guys next. Or the ghouls in the...
I was cut off by Fleur, who showed up with a few of her crew. She walked to the table and with her magic set down a recording. Then turns on the recording.
I'm Kip Kipe. We need help. We are dying.
There are screams in the recording.
The Enclave is hurting the young ones. I don't think that we can last much longer.
She is sobbing.
If anyone could hear this, please send help.
Then, suddenly, it went silent. I looked at Fleur and blinked. Fleur nodded to me with a gentle smile.
Listen, my crew and I are going to try to save them. I know you will come, Taria. What about the rest of you? I doubt they can last very long.
The three factions looked at each other. Cannonball stood up and looked to the two groups of ponies.
I don't know about you, but ponies like the Enclave are the reason most of my species were thrown out of their homes. I think we need to take everything and most of my troops and take down the Enclave.
He looked at the ponies, and Dumbbell stood up on his hooves. Count us in as well. The two looked to the Junk Reapers, who looked towards each other, and they nodded, as one of them removed the helm. Our leaders are working on a lot of stuff right now, but we'll go and gather the rest and meet back here. It may take a day, though. They all nodded and headed back to their normal spots as the ghoul crew went to go do something that Fleur asked them to do.
I shall be back, Taria. I need to get back to the ship, to get the rest of my crew, even the prisoners that we jailed wrongly. I shall return in a day.
I nodded, watching her trot off, and looked to Sand, and he gave me a smirk. Well then, Taria, it seems like we're going to war. I guess I'll go hunt for some food. I nodded to him, and he smiled as I watched him walk away to go hunt. I thought a moment and looked at the scattered bodies, since the cleaning hasn't fully started yet. I went to grab an old helm and a few armor parts. Rat Creeper Forge, Day 33. In the forge, I made a helm that had a tube in it that would fit my head. I carved a word in it with my claws, saying, Honor. I took off my armor and took out the attached parts of the armor scraps to the armor and worked very hard, even at upgrading my hammer as well, adding some harder parts to it and making it bigger. Then to my machine gun. I looked towards the rat creepers, gathering their armor and weapons to get ready for battle. I grabbed the hammer and smashed in the armor to reinforce it, and the same with the weapons. I put on my armor and looked towards the rat creepers and their home, a home that they seemed to have children running around and playing. It's like Equestria back in the day, but underground. I looked down the features of my face if anyone saw me. I felt sorry for this world. I may be part of this world now, but my world was full of xenophobic wolf-like beings. I headed out and left the rat creepers to get their weapons together. On my way out, I stopped, turning to head to the king's chambers, and looked at the painting of the two princesses, Luna and Celestia. I have never been a holy creature, but I kneeled down and put my paws together, thinking to myself,
I can't believe I'm doing this. Goddess, I doubt you can hear me. I'm a lost soul in Equestria. I heard of your beautiful princess. I know I will never meet either of you, like the ponies before, but I need someone to lead my heart. I can't take it anymore. I need to fight. I want to use honor to fight, but I need someone to help me through this. Kip already had this before I met her. Oh, Kip and Silvergunner.
Looking down, I sighed, starting my prayer again.
Please, Luna, on your moon, give me help, for I need it.
A soft paw was placed on my shoulder. I looked up, seeing Sand. I may not be much, but I can be the one to help you, Taria. A smile formed on my face. Standing up, I hugged him tightly, feeling my heart fill with so much pride and happiness as I held him tighter in the hug. Then, I removed the hug and coughed.
Anyway, I'm going to get some rest. Wake me up when they're all ready, all right?
Sand gave me a nod. I headed out of the room and went to the inn they had. A small inn that seemed to have beds from old chairs. I paid some caps and laid in the bed and fell asleep. Midnight, day 34, Rat Creeper Inn. I opened my eyes, feeling something was very wrong. I stood up, looking around, and noticed how calm and silent everything was. I was about to head outside, but before I did, I grabbed my hammer and looked around. I didn't see any patrols, but then I looked to see raiders laughing and messing the table. But they were just eating on it. They had rat creepers laughing and cheering with them along with junk reapers. Blinking, I stood up, walking to them, and the king smiled.
"Ah, Turia, come. We're feasting before we head to battle."
Then Crow landed on my shoulder, and I looked over to him and smiled.
"I got all those that are willing to come. The Buffalo are sending a few warriors to the back way in. Crossfire is coming with a few ponies from the apartment. They will be here later, but I told him what's at stake, and well, you never told me you're friends with his wife. So, he's angry and bringing a lot of firepower. They will be here during the middle of the battle. I tried talking to Watcher, but he told me something is going down."
I looked over to Crow, nodding, and sitting at the table and grabbed whatever food was there.
So, a final meal and then death, Because I, for one, have no idea how strong the Enclave is.
I gave a sigh and slowly ate and watched some mares and female rat creepers dance to some music that the dumbbell raiders were playing. It seems that we're getting ready for our final battle. I laid back in the chair and noticed Sand coming up to me and offered his hand.
"How about a dance before we go to our deaths?"
I blinked and smiled and stood up, grabbing his hand, and danced to the slow music. The rat creepers seemed to be playing an old violin, as well as using an old exhaust from the tank or whatever to make music out of it. We are ready for the final battle of our lives. Here I am dancing with a male of my species. I held his paws tightly with my own. It seems the two of us have gotten closer since we've gotten to know each other. But with how this wasteland is, one of us could be dead so soon. The music played through the night. As the two of us kept dancing, the cheering and happiness of the final battle that would lead to our deaths. We needed to have something to make us happy, even if we wouldn't ever see each other again. I looked around to see many of our allies eating and dancing. I saw the 3 Applejack Ranger mares watching and keeping an eye on the area. I looked around as the night cloudy sky was amazingly calm for it being this land. For once, we know peace. I forgot my friends for the time being. I want to save them. I need to save them. But I can't rush therein on my own. I looked toward Sand for once, again seeing a male of my species, a male that treats me with respect and kindness. I looked towards everyone else. All was ignored, even the pain of what it took to get back here. No longer that I felt my lungs burning. No longer that I had that cough that affected me. After that run-in with the gas, I felt most of my body healed, but still tender from everything. But I looked at the happiness of those around me, even if this was before our deaths. It seems what I've been told before forced to leave my home was true.
Battle and the taste of fear can bring forth the light of one's heart, before the force of death and the fate of ending. The heart shall be a drum to bring forth a happy future, or a sword and the bullet shall bring forth the death of all. Seek both, seek neither, for death is but the next journey.
Sand and I stopped dancing, and we looked to the others who just seemed to enjoy their either last night on Equestria or their futures as heroes of the ones trapped in that camp.
"Walk with me, please, Turia,"
Sand said calmly. Looking to him, I nodded, and we walked far away from the others into the middle of the fields near a gutted tank, both of us leaning on the metal as he looked towards me and smiled. Taria, we may not know each other so well, but with our species, that's oddly normal. But I think we need to ease our tension and stress. We may never have a chance again to enjoy the company of another. So, let's start easy with what the ponies call the pleasures of the flesh, since to our species, that's a normal thing. He shrugged, laughing. I blinked, looking towards him with a gentle smile.
I'm happy to think of doing so with you, but know this. I'm going to fight to live. You do the same, Sand.
I looked away from him, still hearing the music, but he did something I didn't expect. He grabbed me and gave me a deep kiss. The music was all I could hear from this. To our kind, this is normal to a pony. This is something as a date, maybe? Who knows? I don't know pony kind that well, but if I wasn't going to come back alive, or he wasn't either, it's time to do something I never thought I would. The night was a beautiful night. No matter what happens, I'm sure we will win or die, for we have many to save. It was time to fight for peace. Peace comes with a price. That means the death of friends, lovers, and even family. Family. What a ring to it. Never more will pain and death win. It's now time for battle. But, for the moment, a time of peace.